Okay, so Techstar's, if you didn't know, it's one of the world's largest accelerator programs, founded in 2006 by four gentlemen, two of them most famous, David Cohen and Brad Feld. With Techstar, 600 companies have been funded, over 600 companies have been funded, and 1.8 billion raised. Okay, so this kind of, this is the history of Techstar's. So the Techstar's framework, so again, this framework works, so there's over 20 programs now, running almost every single year. Vertical and corporate programs. So vertical programs meaning kind of the programs with Barclays and Disney and Qualcomm. So it works with kind of, corporate programs. So it works with corporate partners. City programs. City programs are actually kind of our London program, our Chicago program. So what I mean to say is this works on both kind of the corporate scene and both kind of a city early stage ecosystem scene. It also works in international contexts. So this framework works, it's very international. UK has a program, Germany has two programs, Israel has one program, and South Africa has one program. Nothing in Asia yet, but again, this framework is contextual and it scales internationally. And so if there's one key takeaway, if you take out your phone and start snapping photos, please do. The key thing is this. Techstar works like this. Idea, market, traction, and team. Okay. Idea is the least important, followed by market, followed by traction, followed by team. Okay. And I'm going to put this on SlideShare. I believe in being open and transparent, so feel free to take a look at that later on, or you can, again, take pictures all you want. Okay, so Techstar's framework. So let's go through this one by one. Okay, and I'm going to go a little bit slower now. If there are any questions on each individual thing, do let me know. Okay. So idea is the least important thing according to the Techstar's framework, right? And why is that? So conceptually, the idea is really, I have a picture of a balance sheet here. The idea, according to the Techstar framework, is just a way of thinking of what the business is at this current state. Right. So a balance sheet is really kind of what is the state of the business right now, right? Has no prediction value in the future, right? It does take a look at what's in the past slightly, but it's current year balance sheet, current state snapshot. And that's really what kind of the idea is for Techstar's, according to the Techstar's framework. How are the entrepreneurs thinking about how to address the market? What idea are they using to address the market now? But the market might change. And the market will definitely change. But how are they thinking about it? And more importantly, thinking about it in a slightly clever and innovative way. It's a way to gauge how the entrepreneurial team thinks. But it has no concreteness. We're not expecting it as the one that's going to be the billion-dollar business, right? It's just how are they thinking about it? Okay, do you see the slight difference? It's not like Uber was exactly Uber when David Cohen invested in it. It was the idea of this kind of sharing economy of private cars. That was the idea. And that's the stuff that will scale, right? Okay? So it's really stress testing and understanding what the fundamental idea is and how they're going to address that particular market. Okay? And it's not the actual idea itself. Cool? Does that make sense? Okay. Which then goes to this, the second idea, which is what is the market? The second most important thing. What is the market? Because the idea is really currently what the entrepreneurial team is, how they're thinking about addressing the market. The market will change. The market will get bigger, it will go smaller, it will morph, it might go to some other market, whatever it may be. But the idea is just that, how they're addressing the market right there. The second thing that's important is, or the more important thing, is to think about the market. How big is the market, right? And if it's tiny, it does give us pause, right? If it's too tiny, are you spinning your wheel trying to address a market that's ultimately really going to be too small, right? And so kind of the reason why I put these three logos is at the end of the day, it's really kind of a simple exercise as an entrepreneur. When we want to see kind of entrepreneurs show us the market size, it's a fairly simple market sizing exercise, right? So any of these guys can do it. the point I want to make here is also the market size, we also know it's not fixed. So a lot of times it's also very gut feel as well. So when we get something from the entrepreneur, when we get the market size or the total addressable market size, what we want to see is a figure that, the next slide is, kind of like Goldilocks. It's not too small and not too big. Right? I know there's a bit of a cop-out, but something that's over 100 billion, I'm starting to say, okay, all right, that's you know, this is a bit too big. Where do you get your assumptions from? Something that's a bit too small, like sub 100 million, so I say, okay, that might be a bit too tiny for the market. So anything that falls within the range of that, we're like, great. We're not going to throw away your assumptions anymore. We're not going to filter it out. We're going to start to say, okay, so how do you think about, if it's 1 billion, why do you think it's a $1 billion market? If it's 100 million, we're like, okay, this is way too small. And if it's over 10 billion even, we'll start to say, how do you address some of these assumptions, right? Why? This is way too big. We're filtering out now. We're filtering out. We're looking for ways, we're not trying to filter out. We are trying to filter out, but we're trying to filter the extremities out, if you will. Extreme points of the distribution curve, right? We're trying to, anything that's less than that, we're trying to say this is way too small. Anything that's way too big, we're saying, or do you really fundamentally understand the market or what you operate? And that's kind of what we're trying to eliminate. The one thing I do want to say about this, another thing is, in terms of priority, the second priority, so on a relative scale, the least, still less important than team, is because oftentimes you cannot anticipate the market size either. So if you take a look at Airbnb originally, you wouldn't have, and Paul Graham wouldn't have thought that they would take the entire hotel industry market, right? And so it's also a gut feel. You can put a lot of numbers in this. And then as an ex-consultant, we spent 2-3 weeks on market sizing. And so you can have the right firm numbers. But for the entrepreneurs in the room, I would say as long as you keep within the not too high, not too low range, and you can back it up with fair assumptions, but also appeal to the investor's sense of what this could possibly be, I think you're, according to the Techstar framework, that's a great thing. Because as Techstar trained people, you have to kind of expect that sometimes you will not see those markets rise. You might not even anticipate those markets. So there's a bit of an assumption there. There's a bit of a gut feel that maybe potentially this could be big. We don't know what markets this startup will penetrate or address, but this idea is scalable enough, it could translate to other markets as well. Does that make sense?